with the ability to do heavy CC, summon a minion for help, attack from afar, retaliate with frost damage when attacked, or hit some heavy damage up close, all while debuffing your enemy and spreading ice fields across the ground. The Frostlock is the ultimate caster hybrid for any type of build that wants to focus around CC, damage, and frost magic. You guys requested this from my last frost video, so I hope you enjoy. Alright guys, it is time to talk stats real quick and leveling up. You can see, even though we are going to be a Warlock, we are actually going to start out as a fighter, and this is going to be for a couple different options. As a fighter, you will have proficiency with every weapon type in the game, every armor type, which is nice, but you'll actually have proficiency with Constitution, which is great because there are quite a few kind of like Constitution spells you have that have concentration needed, so it will really help out with not having your concentration broken. You get to choose a fighting style at level 1, and we're going to be going with dueling because you will be a sword and board character here. These are the stats I'm going with. The reason I only have 14 dex versus 16 constitution, the way this build works is the fact that you're going to be more melee focused, and a lot of spells you do will be up front, and you will be hitting enemies with your weapon. So you do want higher constitution, that way if they do focus you, you survive. Dexterity I have at 14. If you go the heavy armor route, you may not necessarily need as much dexterity since you won't get any AC from it. However, I plan to use medium armor, and with that being said, most medium armors only get +2 to their AC, and that would be from 14 dexterity. Charisma is your casting ability as well as your weapon attacks, because you will be going with Pact of the Blade, which will make your weapon scale with charisma. I'm using skill proficiencies here. It's really going to be up to you on what you want to use. I'm a big fan of having perception, so I don't want acrobatics. I'm going to drop that and put that in perception so I can get +2 in that. I like having the ability to see things in the environment because it really sucks missing out on things. I also have intimidation just because I already have a decent amount of charisma, so I might as well get a little bit more into that with my character interactions. I have +1 for athletics to hopefully not get shoved. We have really low strength, as you can see, but that's okay because our weapon stuff is going to scale with charisma anyway. Okay, so from here on out, we're going to start putting points on a Warlock. Warlocks only have 2 spell slots that recharge on a short rest. At Warlock level 11, they will get a 3rd spell slot. If you're following this build, that means you will get it at level 12 since you have 1 point in the fighter to begin with. Cantrip, Eldritch Blast is non-negotiable. This is one of the best damaging skills in the game. It hits really hard, on top of having some other really cool interactions in a bit. At level 5, it's 2 beams, and at level 10, it becomes 3 beams, and they're really strong. Blade Ward, we're going to drop. Mage Hand or Minor Illusion are much better in my opinion, so pick whichever one you think is going to be useful for you. We are going with the Fiend, and I know you're probably wondering why, since most people think the Fiend is fire-based, and for the most part it is. However, there are 2 exclusive spells the Fiend actually has that can be used for cold damage, which is why we're going with this. So you definitely want your Armor of Agathis here. This is great because it just gives you temporary hit points, but also makes the enemies take cold damage when they hit you with melee attacks. Your other spell, I would say, get Hex. This thing is really powerful, and this will have some interactions with gear. Not to mention just having additional damage as well. So really strong. Spell-wise, pick whatever you want here. It's not really going to matter all that much. Alright, your invocations, there's going to be quite a few that we want to go with. To start off, Agonizing Blast for sure is really strong. If you plan to use cloth, pay attention, because this is for the cloth wearers only. You do want Armor of Shadows. This will give you mage armor for free without spending a spell slot, which is really powerful because that's just another +3 AC. So if you plan to use cloth only, like the chest piece I have on here, the Potent Robe, which I know a lot of people are fond of because it's really strong, you definitely want this. I'm not going to be using that though. I do replace this robe with something else inside Act 2. So instead, I am going to be going with Repelling Blast, which will allow my Eldritch Blast not only to A, scale with my Charisma now for damage, but it will also knock people back. Here is another great option for spells. Hold Person, really fantastic because Warlock spell slots are always upcasted. You'll be able to use this on multiple people at once for CC. Or I would say Darkness is another powerful spell. Cloud of Daggers is also really nice. Misty Step isn't going to be that much needed because the item I want you to use will actually give you Misty Step for free. So out of all these options, I would say go Cloud of Daggers, Darkness, or Hold Person. Your Pact Boon, Pact of the Blade. This is definitely going to be required for the way this build is going to work. This basically means you make your weapon binded to you. Once it's binded, it will scale with Charisma. Warlock level 4, you get another cantrip. Pick whatever you want here. Spell-wise, pick whatever you want that you didn't pick before. Your first feat, into Charisma. Assuming you used the Hag's Hair, this is going to be maxed. If you didn't use that, if you don't plan to use the Hag's Hair at all, one thing you could do is go down to Performance, for example. So that way you can get that to 18, and then with another ability improvement, that would be 20. I am going to be using the Hag's Hair for this, so with the Hag's Hair, that's going to be maxed at 20 Charisma at level 5. Warlock level 5, you get some new spells. You are going with Hunger of Hadar. This is really powerful. It is a concentration spell. However, this thing is super strong. Enemies that start their turn inside of it take cold damage. Enemies that end their turn in it take acid damage. It's considered like a darkness spell as well. It's basically a better version of darkness because it will hurt your enemies. But you also at this same time can get Devil's Sight now. So now you can see in magical darkness. So the darkness that this spell gives will not affect you. And it will affect enemies and allies. So do keep that in mind. And what's great is if you use this for Will, he's human. Normally don't have night vision. Now you do. Alright, so you get a new thing here for Warlocks. Dark One's Own Luck. Add a d10 to an ability check once per long rest. You get some new spells here. Counterspell is useful, but because you only have 2 spell slots, keep in mind, don't waste this. You want to use this on things that are going to be really powerful. CC abilities like Hold Person can end runs because then you get crit to hell, so really make sure you use this appropriately. Alright, so here we go. We get some more spells. This is one of the exclusive spells I was talking about, Fire Shield. You can use it for Fire Shield Cold instead, meaning A, you'll get fire resistance when you pop the cold version, and anytime they hit you in melee, you do cold damage to them. This will stack with the other spell we talked about earlier, the Armor of Agathis. Agathis? Man, I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing that. They stack. So I say go with Fire Shield. There is an item that will give you this for free. However, I like having it on use because the item is once per day and this is just per spell slot. You get some more options here. Book of Ancient Secrets I think is trash. This is terrible. Even though you gain 3 spells that don't use a spell slot, they're only rank 1. So they're not that powerful. So I would say definitely don't take that. Pick anything else you want though that you think is going to be good for you. I am going with one of the shadows. That way I can basically go invisible once per long rest if I need to. Alright, so Warlock level 8. You get some more spells here. Pick whatever you want. I think Dimension Door could be useful. Feat, again, if you didn't have the Hag's Hair, this is when you would want to get your Charisma maxed. I do, so instead I'm going to go with something else. And this is when you have the option to really mess around and pick pretty much whatever you want at this point, because there's a lot to choose from because you have a free feat now. So some things that I'm a big fan of are going to include the following. Warcaster is decent because it gives you advantage on Constitution saving throws, which is nice, or for concentration spells, I should say. So this would be really nice because this will help out. You already have proficiency if you did follow this build with Constitution, so this just adds to it. Another thing that's going to be really good is going to be Savage Attacker. The way this build works is you are upfront and personal, and if the way I have you stacking damage, this is actually going to be really huge. So if you do want to follow the build the way I do it, I would say take Savage Attacker. Really, really powerful. However, you do have some other options as well. Lucky is another really great feat. You get 3 luck points per day, and you basically get to redo things for rolls. Really, really strong. If you do plan to use Heavy Armor Master, even though it increases your strength, which we don't care about because we have low strength anyway, this will reduce all non-magical damage by 3. So it just makes you a little bit more tanky. Elemental Adept I don't think is needed for this build, because if they're going to be resistant to cold damage, even though there will be ways to make them vulnerable to it, you have your Eldritch Blast, which is force damage, and very few things in game are going to be weak to that, so I don't think Elemental Adept is going to be needed. Alert is another good option here because this will give you +5 to your initiative and you can't be surprised. So pick whatever you want. I personally am going to be going with Savage Attacker. Okay, you are character level 10 and you are Warlock level 9. This is where the other unique spell from the Fiend comes in, and that's going to be Cone of Cold. Because you are going to be upfront in the melee aspect of combat, this is a really powerful spell that you can only get for being a Fiend Warlock. Normally Warlocks would not have access to this spell, which is another reason why we did go Fiend here. You also get some new things to choose from this point. You could do Conjure Elemental of a Warlock spell, which is cool. This thing could definitely be powerful. Otherworldly Leap is okay, not necessarily needed, but it does give you Enhanced Leap, which is cool because you can use it for free inside combat without using a spell slot, and it's a ritual spell outside. Because you have low strength, this will just help out with your jumping distance. Go ahead and pick what you want. It's going to be up to you. I think Minions of Chaos though could be very powerful though, because it's a level 5 conjuration spell, and the elementals that you summon are no joke. They can really help you out in combat a ton. I did want to show off how strong the water elemental is here that you get for the invocation. This thing is actually one of the best elementals you can have to summon along with a frost build here. So already its initial attack, Slam, does bludgeoning and cold damage, which is cool. It has an ability to warp across the field, which is really nice. It has a multi-attack that does cold and bludgeoning damage. But it also has a thing called Winter's Breath, which is really, really strong. So if you read the tooltip, it's basically a breath attack. So if the enemy is already burning, you automatically make them become brittle, which then makes them vulnerable to thunder and bludgeoning damage. And if the way our weapon is going to be set up, you will be doing bludgeoning damage on top of thunder as well, and cold damage. This is really useful because you can constantly put this on enemies to make them weaker to your attacks, as well as getting rid of the burning. And if they're not burning, it just has a save that you would normally do to put it on the creature. You can see how it said I was saved. If I would have failed the save, I would have been brittled as well, even though I wasn't burning. But if they are burning, it 100% automatically does it. Really, really powerful, and I love this elemental. Alright guys, so talking gear, I'm assuming you all have already seen my gearing videos, so I'm not going to cover the gear that we already covered in that, but I am going to describe some of the other pieces that you don't normally see in those videos, and I will show how to get those as well. So first off, you can see I have 19 charisma. I am going to use my Inti's hair, and now I'm at 20. This is great because when I use my bind pact weapon, it will make my weapon scale with my actual charisma. So pieces of gear that are going to be 100% required if you're following the build the way I do it. A, you have a shield called Absolute's Protector. You actually get this from killing the orc inside Moonrise Towers, and I will showcase later on how to do that real easily without getting caught. But this is great because if you are branded by the Absolute, you receive 1 less damage from all spells. You can shield bash people as a reaction, but it gives you the fire shield chill spell for free. You can use once per long rest without using a spell slot, which is the main reason why we use it. Having only 2 Warlock spell slots kind of sucks, so being able to use that for free is really nice. Of course, the staff we are using is going to be the Morning Frost, and it has the additional +2 because I did choose the dueling from being a fighter. One thing I do want to showcase though, I can't throw this on the ground because it's a packed weapon. So what I'm going to do instead is equip the Drakethroat here, make this. Now that's a packed weapon. I'm going to take my Arcane, or my Morning Frost I should say, put it on the ground. This weapon here that you get from Row Moonglow and Moonrise Towers is amazing because I can use Draconic Elemental Weapon and I can choose a different element. I can't choose cold since it already has cold on the staff, but I could do acid, fire, lightning, or thunder. We're going to go with thunder and put that on the staff. I'm going to pick the staff back up. And now, if you take a look at my staff, I now have a staff that is my packed weapon that has 1d4 thunder, 1d4 cold, and it does additional bludgeoning damage as well. Very, very powerful. And I put my shield in my offhand so it becomes versatile. And you can see it gets a +2 as well. So this thing has a weapon enchant +2 and the extra damage as well. If you remember that skill we talked about from our elemental, well, you can proc that really well. And if we ever do freeze an enemy from our gloves, because we do have a way to do encrusting frost here, well, guess what? When they're frozen, if you read frozen, bludgeoning, thunder, or force damage shatters the condition. And when they are frozen, they become vulnerable to that damage, so it will do double. It's really nice synergy. The chest piece is the Dark Justicier's half plate. This is my personal preference here. It's medium armor, so I will get the +2 for my dexterity for my AC. You can see I have 21 AC. This gives me advantage on Constitution saving throws, which is huge because we already have proficiency with Constitution since we chose Fighter at level 1. So the chances that our concentration is going to break is going to be really, really small. And that's good because we have multiple concentration spells that are really useful to use. You have your Hex. You have your Hunger of Hadar. Cloud of Daggers. If you're using the bow that you buy from Damon, this gives you haste normally to use, which is great because that's also a concentration you can put on yourself. So chances are none of that's going to break, or if it does, they need a really, really high roll. I'm just using Cloak of Protection, +1 AC and +1 saving throw. You can put whatever cloak here you want. This is just my default one because it's a really, really great cloak, and some of the better cloaks don't come until later in the game. I am using the Arcane Synergy Helm that you get from the Githyanki inside the Kresh. This thing is amazing. It says, when you inflict a condition, you gain Arcane Synergy for 2 rounds. Almost everything that you do in this game is considered a condition. Because your staff has a chance to chill the target, you'll be having conditions from the staff. Whenever you put Hex on someone, that's considered a condition. Just making your weapon a packed weapon's a condition. There's so much that you will do. You'll see this proc all the time. And what this does is this will give me extra damage equal to my casting modifier for my melee attacks or ranged attacks. You're not using a bow, but it does affect bows as well. So basically, because you have 20 charisma and we're using Pact of the Blade, you can see, I'm going to put it in turn-based mode real quick. I have it for 2 turns. So now if you take a look at the damage goes up way more. Look at that, 17 to 28 damage from 1 hit. You can see it's +14. And that's because of the extra arcane synergy. Arcane synergy is giving me another +5 because of my charisma modifier, which is really powerful. When it comes to the necklace and rings, these are actually going to be a little bit flexible depending on what you want to do. So I like the Snowburst ring. This thing is amazing because anytime I attack someone, it's going to put a chilling field on the ground. I'll attack Asterion, for example. I just crit him. Whoops, sorry, buddy. But you can see I have the frost field around him on the ground, and I put 2 turns of encrusting frost. So that's amazing. You're going to be putting snow everywhere on the ground for people to trip on. Because of that, I do use the Nightwalkers. This will make me immune to pretty much all type of difficult terrain. I can't slip on ice or anything like that. And it gives me Misty Step for free. If you don't use these boots, the other boots would be the Hoarfrost boots, since you can't fall prone while being on icy terrain. It's going to be a must-have for this. Neck piece, I am using the Elemental Augmentation neck piece, just so if I end up doing my Ray of Frost from my weapon, it will scale with my actual casting modifier here, so it would do additional +5 damage. You don't necessarily need this. You could get another Misty Step from that neck. There's a lot you can choose here. This is just a really nice one to have, but feel free to replace this with something else because I find myself not using Ray of Frost all that often, and I'm doing more melee than anything else. The last ring here, the Ring of Mental Inhibition, this is going to be up to you on whether you want to use this or not. This will give you saving throws, or like a way to help out. So anytime they fail a saving throw, you get mental fatigue on the enemy, -1 to wisdom, intelligence, and charisma saving throws for every turn, stacking up to 7. If you don't use that, the other options, in my opinion, are if you want more damage, you have a couple different things you can do. So A, you have the Caustic Ban, which is just +2 acidic damage. So whenever you attack with your weapon, it's just +2 acid damage. So it's a little bit more damage. Or my personal favorite, because you have so much ability to keep your concentration checks going, there is a ring that you get right here, the Strange Conduit ring. So if I, let me enter. If I equip this, now whenever I'm concentrating on a spell, I will do additional psychic damage. So I want to showcase why this is so strong. So you see my character here subscribe. I am going to enter turn-based mode real quick. I'm going to put Hex on him. We'll do Constitution. The reason I like doing Constitution for this is because the saving throw they need to pass in order to get frozen from encrusting frost is actually going to be Constitution, which is why I put that on there. And it gives him disadvantage. So now, when I attack him, I want to showcase how much extra damage I'm going to do. There we go. I'm going to crit him too. It's just a showcase. So that's a lot of damage. 23 bludgeoning, 6 thunder, 8 cold, 6 psychic, and 9 necrotic because he has Hex. And Hex, the other effect that it has is he takes necrotic damage from hits. And I do want to showcase why I like Savage Attacker as well. Savage Attacker is a really strong ability because it rerolls the damage. You see how it says rerolled right here? That means the damage would have been lower, so it took the higher number. It does it for the thunder damage. It does it for the cold damage. It rerolled my psychic damage and rerolled my necrotic damage. It's really strong, and which is why I really like Savage Attacker for this. One other tip I do want to showcase is the Conjure Elemental. We already talked about the skills, but one thing you can do when you summon him, you can summon him. Now, I could just use a short rest, and this would get my spell slots back. But assuming you don't want to do that, the neck piece that you get from the Warden in Moonrise Towers, I could just use this, and then bam, I now have my spell slot back while keeping my pet. Really, really powerful. Normally for Will, if you are making this build for him, you can't actually use the Illithid powers normally, but there is a way to persuade him. If you talk to him with your main character, assuming your relationship is good enough, you'll have an option to actually talk about the Illithid powers here. And when you do, you can do a persuasion check, and assuming you pass this check, he'll actually be able to use the powers. Alright, so now you can see Will before was hesitant, and now I can use Illithid powers. So if you did want to get your favorable beginnings, the luck of the far realms, or anything else, you can now do that. And I would highly recommend doing that. Favorable beginnings is just an amazing thing to have, and getting a free on-demand crit whenever is also really good. So that is one way you can force Will and anyone else in your party to get the Illithid powers if they normally wouldn't be able to. Alright, so I already have my stuff set and prepared to go, so what I'm going to do is use Fire Shield Chill, enter turn-based mode right away, that way I have Arcane Synergy on top of having Fire Shield. We're going to come down these steps. I'm going to have my Elemental also come down these steps. And now I can open up on the enemy. I could use my hold person to try getting multiple people held at once. I could also just straight up use Hunger of Adar right away, and that's what I'm going to do to open. I'm surprised he hit me with that. Alright, so now for my turn, I got a couple of things I can do. They're all inside there, and you can see if I attack them, I have advantage because they're blinded, and I have the high ground, which is really nice. She's not in it. So what I'm going to do, I don't like Voss. I don't want him messing with me. I'm going to use, instead of using Eldritch Blast, which would be a smart move to knock them all back, I'm going to use my Ray of Frost to hopefully get him kind of proned. So that's unfortunate. I was really hoping I'd be able to knock him prone, but that's okay. Because there's, even though you can't see it all that well, there is an ice field below him now. I'm going to end that turn. My Elemental, I'm going to have him stay exactly where he's at. Or I could have him come down. If I have him come down, chances are he's probably going to die. So what we'll do is I'll have him come down anyway. And I can hit both of these. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it like this. Can I get all three? Almost all three. Not quite, though. And it does create an ice field as well, which is nice. I'm going to have him move back. You can see, because he was starting his turn inside there, he's taking damage. He couldn't really move all that far because of the field. He ended his turn inside, so he took acidic damage. Really, really strong. Okay, so now it's my turn. I'm going to use the Elemental again. I'm going to have him come over here. Let's go ahead and use Winter's Breath. I knocked all three of them prone, which is just beautiful. That's so nice. Let's have him come back. My turn. I mean, I would be doing more damage if I hit them in melee. You can see that one's already dead, but there's really no point to it at this point. I'm gonna, you know what? We're gonna come down. Why not use one of my spell slots for Cone of Cold and do some big time damage? And then I'm gonna use my bonus action and just come back up. And at my turn. Wow, that was smart. He shot her out to get her out of there. Alright, so it's my turn again. Voss is almost dead. So I have a couple of things I can do. She's almost dead. She's just healed up. So chances are I'm definitely want to at least get a couple of kills here. So we'll start with the Elemental again. I could go ahead and do multi-attack on someone and definitely kill her. Because they're set up in a good line, I'm going to have him come right here and use this Winter's Breath again. It's such a powerful spell. So it killed the one. He's almost dead. And then she basically ran away. I don't think she's actually in combat, which is why she keeps healing up the fool, which is kind of hilarious. For me, though, so I don't want them to continue to attack me. So I could shoot another Ray of Frost and put another ice field down. Or I could use Eldritch Blast and knock their asses back. Which is what I did instead. And what's great is if they ever do come close to me, I have my melee damage for big time damage as well. And this whole time I've been just CCing them inside the little area, and they're just constantly taking damage and they can't really get to me. Now the ranger is a problem because he's going to end up killing my pet. He's practically dead though. So I'm going to have the pet come right here. I'm going to come here with my pet. We'll follow shortly after. You can see I have no more spell slots though. So I do have to be careful here. So what I want to do instead, I'm going to come down. I'm going to hit you. You're dead. Voss. All three. And that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my pet now. So Voss is almost dead. She's almost dead. So what do I want to do? I could teleport behind them. Now I could multi-attack and more than likely kill her, but I'm going to try getting both of them. And the multi-attack is really strong, but this AoE spell is just so powerful. She's dead anyway. He's stuck inside, so it's a win-win situation. I'm just sending him in there to hopefully have Voss attack him. Kind of like as a distraction. Which he did. He served his purpose. Alright, so now it's my turn. So I have a couple of things I could do. He's all the way over there. So chances are I'm not going to be able to reach him from where I'm at now. So I could just use my Ray of Frost. It's at a disadvantage. Disadvantage. You said, see how he's blurred? So what I would want to do is come up the ladder first. And why she's not attacking me, I don't know. She might be glitched. Now, I don't want to knock him overboard, because if I knock him overboard, I'm not going to loot him. And this is a way how you can get the legendary weapon in Act 1. I missed, a little unfortunate. That's fine. I'm going to stay right here. Alright, so he's a little out of my range still. I would like to come down to hit him, but I can't. I already used my Misty Step from my boots. I'm going to go ahead and just heal myself. And now, let's go ahead and get an Ice Field on him again. And you can see chances of you getting Encrusting Frost from using your spells isn't going to be as high. But when you start the melee, because your attack with your melee will constantly put frost on them, it has a chance to chill them and everything else. When you do melee, it's really powerful because of that. And you can see he just died. And now if I go to loot Voss, I have the legendary sword. Thanks, pal. But yeah, that's basically how you play the build, guys. Like, you can do a bunch of CC from ranged, or you can get up close and personal and completely just raffle stomp somebody up close. So, like, for example, this raider who decided not to join in on the fight, let's just attack her. She's running away. I don't know who this is. Like, she won't fight me. She keeps running away. All right. Anyway, that's the build, guys. So hopefully you liked it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye. To get the chest piece, you do have to go to the Gauntlet of Shar inside the Room of Silence, which is just going to be here on the map. come behind this gate, you want to make sure you loot the books that are from the different little book tower things over here. They are traps, so make sure you do disarm them. And then you definitely want to take the book and put it inside. And it's Teachings of the Lost, the Night Singer. And when you do that, you'll notice there's going to be some new things over here, specifically the Spear Knight, but the Dark Justiciar half plate is the chest piece that I recommend using here. And for the Ice Shield, just make sure you follow the orc into this room up in Moonrise Towers, enter turn-based mode, kill her in the eyeball without anyone seeing, and just go to camp and you'll be good to go. When you do come back though, you want to make sure that the character that killed her doesn't interact with people, because there's a chance they will attack you. Send someone else to interact with the NPCs if you still need to buy stuff.